the science.
Divided with the blood of 1,000 men and women was filled in these laws. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. No way to death. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has right down.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, August 27th, 2007.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey guys,
What's going on, guys?
it's World of the Unexplained.
Once again, tonight, you can't call in. We're in the
What?
process of moving, so no phone line tonight. No call-in phone line tonight. We will be in a new studio next Monday night.
Brand new.
Brand spanking. It'll be cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'll even bring Chuck and D with us. I know, you're thinking why? Why bring Chuck? He won't put the pipe down. But we're going to bring him anyway. Anyway,
It'll be cool though.
before we have our next guest on, there is new news in the world of Ron Mexico. Today, Michael Vick said he was sorry. And apparently you can get this plea agreement online here for the Eastern District of Virginia. The defendant agrees to plead guilty to count one of the indictment, charging the defendant with conspiracy to travel in interstate commerce in the aid of unlawful activities and to sponsor a dog in an animal fighting venture in violation of Title 18 U.S.C. Section 371. The maximum penalties for the violation of this offense are a maximum term of 5 years imprisonment, a fine of $250,000, full restitution, a special assessment, and 3 years of supervised release. The defendant understands that his supervised release term is in addition to any prison term the defendant may receive.
Right.
No Martha Stewart for you, Ron.
$250,000 fine's like a slap in the back of the hand.
Oh, it's nothing for a guy like that. Nothing. And, you know,
Yeah, but the thing about it is, he's not getting back into ball, is he?
he's not, no, I
I
don't.
mean,
Who
they
knows?
kicked
You
him out,
know,
right?
everyone's. I don't even want to get into that. Everyone's talking about. I think the NAACP was. What were they saying, Chuck? Something about it being. Do you remember this?
I remember they were saying, from what I'd heard, they had said something that he should pay his debt to society and then go back into the profession so he can entertain his fans or something like that. I didn't actually read it myself. That's just what I heard.
It's just bad. But anyway, for
know.
those of you that are interested about the Ron Mexico, the Ron Mexico jersey and how much it went for, I'm going to try to find that out while we're continuing in the program. I can't remember. I never really checked to see how much it finally went for.
Man,
The Ron Mexico jersey.
that'd be an awful nice Christmas gift. Whoever got it.
It would be.
To SWOTU people. We put it in our new studio.
That's right.
You know?
Who made what, Chuck?
You know why he made the plea deal?
Why did he make the plea deal?
He was facing 20 years for racketeering.
20 years for
Oh, for
racketeering.
Rico?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's nice, isn't it?
I think he should have gotten the 20 years, personally.
He's not going to. They're not going to give him 20 years.
I know, but they'll give him more,
Now, if
more than five.
it were me, yeah, or D, yeah, we'd be facing like 30. You know, we'd be under the jail so far where there would just be no turning back.
Yeah. It's just really. That's messed up, man. I mean, just what he did it's just sick. You know, just cruelty
It
to
is
animals
sick.
really,
It is
really,
sick.
really ticks me off.
I'm trying. That's
Well.
Atlanta. Wow. I'm trying to find.
Atlanta's.
I'm trying to find this email because
people are cruel to
you know
animals.
I'm just gonna sign in to my eBay account while we're here and find out what this thing went for.
Is he from Newport News? Oh wow. Oh well, sports people and why they're so dumb.
You know, I mean, when you have that kind of money, I guess you're so far strung out from reality that you're a moron.
You can do anything. It's like
I don't know.
I think I'll go on a.
Have you heard how much all this has cost him?
No, how much?
About $140 million.
$140 million.
Well, good.
Okay, here it is.
You know?
The Ron Mexico Vic number 7 official Reebok Custom Atlanta jersey went for $321 even, and $4.60 shipping and handling.
Wow.
So someone paid $325.60.
Like I said, that'd be an awful nice decoration for the new studio.
That's
you
right.
know,
So whoever
if you guys
are
listening,
Rob Deer 30, if you want to send that out to Wotu, check the P.O. box.
Reebok's not selling anything with the Falcons number 7 on there anymore, so I believe it went for $350.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Get it.
I know.
Well, you get a lot of crap.
At least we know that he's sorry.
Oh,
Now, and, sorry that he got caught or sorry that he did it. You decide.
yeah.
I think it's the latter.
The latter?
The former.
What's wrong with the latter? Sorry.
It's kind of a
I just think.
embarrassment, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like you say, it's
I don't think he's embarrassed by it though.
So
I
far
think
strung
it's one
out
of those
from,
things
he's
where
just,
he's just mad he got caught.
Yeah, and that's really the thing that gets me. Of course, what do we know?
you can take away from it, though, is that he's lost, the one thing that he cares the most about at all in his life.
Playing ball.
Playing football. Being a starting quarterback in the NFL, which a very small number of people, very small percentage of the population ever gets to do.
I'm sure some third-rate football.
That's true.
team, or he'll do something like what's the indoor football?
I don't know. I don't know if arena football will even be around when he gets out.
Well, I just the
great
interesting
idea.
thing. The interesting thing is going to see if this judge accepts this plea, because the judge doesn't have to accept.
Apparently
the
he's
plea.
a hard ass, and he's a big hunting and fishing.
Oh, hunting and fishing enthusiast. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if he
Wait a
accepts
minute. Aren't
this
those
plea.
kind of? Well, I don't know.
They were saying that he might be sympathetic, actually.
Yeah, to dog fighting. Yeah,
Because he's a hunter.
right.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a certain
Sympathetic to dog
certain amount of logic to that, actually.
I really want to know what the outcome of this is going to be. I guess he'll be lifting weights with his buddies,
At least for a little while.
and I guess Richmond, wherever that federal prison is, there probably is one in Richmond.
There probably is.
So it'll be like, oh look, it's Michael Vick, aka Ron in Mexico. Nobody make him yours, man. You'll get something.
That's right.
He don't need cigarettes, man. He's good.
Like the Daleks say, he's contaminated.
Exactly.
And yes, I did use the word Dalek. I would
A
too.
little too much Doctor Who going on.
Yeah,
there.
I know. It's a great show.
That and another news, about the Attorney General. We'd spoken about that off the air earlier, Chuck and I.
No, I haven't heard anything about it.
That's okay. Well,
What about the Attorney General?
Gonzalez stepped down.
Oh, no kidding.
And they replaced him with some guy named, Clemente? Is that it? Or Clement? I don't
Well,
know.
he's the deputy or the
Oh, he's the
general.
Oh, okay. Well, I just heard it on the news on my way back.
Sheriff was named as possibly one of the candidates to replace him.
Man, there's just all kinds of people dropping out and getting kicked out of this administration.
Old George's, yeah.
You know what I mean?
He gave a timeline, actually, August. And if you're not going to be with me till the end of the,
if you're not going down with this sinking ship,
you got to leave now.
jump before it crashes, guys.
I mean, because I don't know about the other
Don't mess with
administrations or
Texas.
whatever, but there's a lot of people that have left in this, this administration. I mean, more so than I can remember in the past.
Well, and the two people who should have left are still there: Condoleezza Rice and George Bush.
Yeah, well,
and Mr. Vice President Dick Cheney.
yeah.
But hey, anyway, tonight's guest is Dr. Al Proffit, hailing
boy.
from the Western Carolina area. You may remember him being on our show with us earlier. What was that, last December? Mm-hmm. When we did the
Twin Lakes
Lodge.
Spiritual Investigation Extravaganza.
Yeah, that was great. So without further ado, Dr. Al Proffit, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing very well, and you guys are having way too much fun already.
Yeah, that's how we do it sometimes.
But let me tell you, I've changed universities now. I'm in Appalachian State.
That's still another liberal institution, though.
And I'm still a liberal professor.
I know. When are you going to get a good, respectable job at Liberty?
That's really interesting. I mean, even somebody that would be an attorney that asked me that question, I'm telling you.
A lot of fine attorneys are produced from Liberty now. Well, they're working for the Bush administration. They're trying to do some good.
Well,
I guess you go.
I guess we'll forgive them, but
yeah, we'll let that slide. How are things out there out west?
Hey, things are going very, very well. How about you? Is it really hot down there in the flatlands?
Oh, it's been awful.
Yeah.
We moved. Yeah, we moved earlier this week. Trent and I and Mr. D. Clements. Chuck kind of canceled on us last minute. He wouldn't put the pipe down, so it was bad. He had to check on some property his folks on.
Of course, you can't see the quotation marks that Scott's making. The air quotation marks.
The last show in this studio, is that right?
That's
it. So
that's just great. I feel good about that. I get it close. That's sort of like playing the last ball game at Wrigley Field or something.
That's true.
It is, because we've been here for over a year now.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're wrecking it with a medicine ball afterwards.
We're blowing it up with dynamite, just like a good jihadi.
Yeah, so you all moving to a state-of-the-art studio somewhere there in the greater metropolitan area?
That's right. K-Vegas, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot.
Hopefully we'll get some better equipment, too, so we'll see how that works out.
We're really excited.
I'm not holding my breath.
Well, that's good, though. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah. I'm still trying to get us hooked into Asheville on a Saturday morning. I've been talking to Mr. Warren about that opportunity, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, that'd be great. I hope Joshua can help you out with that.
Yeah, so what's been going on with you?
Well, I'm settling in. Well, actually, I'm starting my second year now at App State and just settling into that and still try to do the paranormal investigations when I can. And eventually I'm going to try to talk App State into giving me the right to use the paranormal research as part of my research agenda the way that Western Carolina had. As you know, Western Carolina was really, really good and had given me full approval to include to study the paranormal events in education institutions as part of my research agenda, which is, given the fact that I'm a professor of educational leadership, that's kind of that's sort of like being a Democrat in the President administration's cabinet.
I hear you. Wow.
Yeah, but it is unusual that a university would approve anomalous research or paranormal research, but Western not only approved it, they were very, very supporting, and it was really good. And I hope now that I've been here for a year and the people at App State are getting to know me, I'm going to make that request, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, now, Al, you've been with us once before on a hunt, which was really, really awesome. We'll talk more about that.
It really was a good time.
I want to update on that situation. Have you spoken with Anita at Twin Lakes Lodge?
I have not spoken with Anita in a while now, and I really do need to get up with her. And the last I heard, and I hope that this is still the case, that her husband Bobby was doing better and was scheduled to come home. But I haven't talked to her for a while. And I'm hoping, and if anybody remembers listening, that her husband had some serious medical problems, and he was doing better. And I'm hoping that's the case, because I tell you what, they surely are fine people. Anita Gill, I just can't say enough wonderful things about her.
And a beautiful, beautiful vacationing spot if anyone wants to come out and see North Carolina and really take it in with a quiet, peaceful evening in front of a fire during the fall months and see the leaves changing colors, or even during the summer months out at the lake. It's just a beautiful vacation spot, and there's very limited rooms. And hey, it's haunted. That's a bonus for you guys, right?
Absolutely, it's a bonus. And it's Twin Lake Lodge. And it's there in beautiful Greensboro, North Carolina. And I agree with you. I really highly recommend anybody that wants a very nice, relaxing weekend or weekday, doesn't have to be the weekend, to go to Twin Lakes Lodge. And I've done a couple different investigations there. Initially spent three 3 days there and came up with some pretty interesting stuff. And then, as you know, you two guys joined me, and John Zaffis came down for that, and we brought in part of the Haunted North Carolina team. So we really did have quite a good team coming in there. And we had Doug from Ghostly Talk Radio that was down, and we really did have kind of, not because of me, but because of you guys and John and Doug and the folks from Noel from Haunted North Carolina. There really was an all-star team go in and look at that, and it really, really was an interesting investigation.
Yeah, the psychic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you all covered it. You all covered it very, very well, as did Doug. And we tapped in live to Speaking of Strange back in Asheville, which is Joshua Warren's program. So we had 3 different radio stations covering, or 3 different radio programs covering it. And basically, I think you all were basically on and off live all weekend, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it was
that's true.
Great.
It was crazy. But now I wanted to ask you, you've been pointing so much research toward or so many things. You did a paper that went out, you went to Hawaii, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
I did. It was published as a part of the proceedings of the Hawaii International Conference on Education, which was, that's not a conference that deals with paranormal. That's a conference that deals with educational issues, and the fact that they chose to publish it was that at least it shows that there's some interest in it. But when you discuss that kind of thing or you research that kind of thing, you can also expect to take your licks, because people will take all kinds of opportunities to make fun of you and that kind of stuff, as you well know. But hey, they published it, so it's right there alongside with some of the best thinking in the field of education.
Make fun of you for your beliefs? I've never heard such a thing. Alan Handelman, my God. Anyway, enough said.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that? This liberal, I'm not even going to go into that.
He kept on calling you like Jay Clark, too.
Yeah, he even got my name wrong. I think he did it
name
purposefully. Yeah, what a jerk.
I mean, I can expect it one time, but he did like 4 or 5 times.
He needs to come on my show and put it on the equal playing field.
No, we'll never do that.
Of course he won't, because he knows better. Anyway, but what I was going to ask, though, Dr. Proffit, Al, is, when you did all that research and stuff, did you ever think about maybe, talking to somebody at Duke? I know Duke, the Ryan Research Center, is broken off at Duke now, but there's still some kind of back and forth there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and I have talked with those folks. There's Stephen Swartz is the director of the Ryan Center there at Duke now, and Sally Ryan Feather, whose dad was
J.B. Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, J.B. And as a matter of fact, I was a guest when they had the conference maybe about a year ago. It's about 2 years ago. I was invited down to be a guest, and it was a conference that was entitled Death, What Do We Know? And that's where I was able to announce that Western Carolina had approved the research that I was doing with anomalous occurrences inside school, and it really was received very, very well at Duke. And, and I got to meet just some really, really major players in the paranormal field there. Lloyd Auerbach was there. I got to meet Gary Swartz from University of Arizona. I got to chance to meet and talk with Diane Archangel, who was the former director of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Center out of Houston, and Mary Aquino was there. There was just a really lot of good people there, and I'm leaving out some of the bigger names too. But it really was a great conference. So I did have that opportunity, and pretty much gave me an inroad that I can contact the folks at Duke and work with them, and occasionally we'll talk with them down there. Stephen Swartz was into remote viewing for, among other things, when he was at Stanford University. And you'd like this, Jay. He was a speechwriter for Richard Nixon, too.
Oh, right.
I know. That puts him way. You ought to.
He's up on my list now already.
I know. Well, And, but that's really an interesting, you talk about a contrast, someone that would spearhead a research in remote viewing and also be speech writing for Richard Nixon. That's a pretty good contrast.
Well, some people say conservative paranormal talk's an interesting contrast as well.
That's true, but
we think it's normal.
Really not.
So, how does this, how do you, I know I've asked you this before on numerous occasions, but for those that may be listening tonight for the first time that aren't familiar with you, please go back and download the Twin Lakes Lodge podcasts that are up, by the way. How does this play into your your spiritual beliefs? Because I know you're a Christian, and we've talked about this before.
And as we've had a lot of conversations about that, both on the phone and in person to person. And I was raised as a Methodist, and actually for a while was a Methodist lay speaker, and then I became superintendent of schools in a couple different states, and I stopped lay speaking as a result of that because people assumed that I was using the pulpit for a political agenda, and I really just didn't want that. But yeah, I was raised in a Christian home and remain a Christian, and I absolutely see no breakdown of a logic flow. That to me, the whole concept of Christianity is built around life after death or life after life, however you want to phrase it. And I think paranormal researchers are simply trying to tap into that or trying to prove its existence. And so I have absolutely no problem with the fact that my Christianity and the paranormal world just run hand in hand. I have absolutely there's just no inconsistency there to me at all.
Well, good answer. Very good answer, actually.
Well, I think that the Bible is the most paranormal book that's ever written.
Well, it is. I mean, I just lost my train of thought. You got me speechless.
Jesus Christ clearly was the most paranormal man to ever live. I mean,
he walked on water.
He walked on water. He changed, water to wine. He did all these things that, scientifically, physically is not possible. He brought Lazarus back from the dead. He himself conquered death. He caused those that were paralyzed to walk. He caused those that were blind to see. I mean, this just is the definition of paranormal.
And all those lend, the credibility to him being who he said he was, the Son of God.
Exactly, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. And the way that I look at that, if God wants to allow those that have passed over the right to come back for whatever reason and interact with the people on this plane, then God can do it. So sometimes I think we really, as people try to limit what God can do, and we try to create him in our image, and there's just nothing that God can't do. So if God wants to allow that to happen, and I'm trying to take pictures of it or record it or captured on video or something, then I think that's just a scientist in me, and I don't think that God expects us not to use our mind, nor do I think that God expects us not to think.
Well, some people may say those are demons, like I do, Al, but that's okay. That's all right, because we're coming up on a break. Hang tight with us, because when we come back, I want to ask you about the scariest time you've ever had out in the field, and maybe a little bit of what happened and what your response to what was happening was. So you guys stick around with us, and you can't call in tonight. Like I said, we can't do the phone line thing tonight, but you can get on the chat room with us. Go to worldoftheunexplained.com and click on the chat button. That'll bring you in. If you haven't registered, please do so. That'll bring you in, and you can just type those questions right to us, and we'll be more than happy to forward those to Dr. Al Proffit tonight. You're listening to World of the Unexplained, and we'll be back right after this.
This is World of the Unexplained. Excuse me. Wow, what a way to start it. This is World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have Al Proffit on, Dr. Al Proffit. Sorry. And if you want to call in, you can't. This is our last show at our current studio. We're moving everything, so the phone lines, they're gone. But I believe you can get on the chat room, although Scott seems to have some troubles getting in there. But once it gets, and I, of course, have an invisible chat room, meaning I can't get in either. But
you're going to complain about that forever, aren't you?
I am every show. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay. Next week you'll have it.
Okay.
Don't you feel better?
A little bit. But
Actually, we'll all have one.
We'll all have one, yeah.
Oh, that's true. But if you have questions for Dr. Al, Dr. Proffit, just type them in there in the chat room. And,
if I can ever see it. Yeah, but right now we'll just go from where we're going.
Anyway,
we
go
were
ahead, Scott.
Talking about probably your most frightful moment ever in an investigation. Al, what was it?
I have two that really jump out, and one was when I really was first starting to investigate the paranormal. And this was a lot of years ago. As a matter of fact, I'm like you guys. I started, when I was basically in my teen years. But I really had what I consider to be some really enlightened teachers that actually taught me about research and that kind of stuff, and actually let me do a major high school project on that. I combined several classes. But they made sure that I went out and investigated a particular haunted location, and I was investigating this particular location, and which is it was on state land, and it's part of a state park, and it was an old house that had been preserved, and so I had talked a few of my friends into going there with me, and we actually had visited it a number of times. And, maybe I was 18 at this particular point, and, having more fun with life, but, there was no alcohol, there was no drugs, I swear to you, there was nothing.
Right.
No, it's the truth.
This was the 60s, right, Al? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, this was, I was still a sheltered child at this point. This was right. I think this was the summer before I went away to college, and and then we evolved. Is that be the correct way to say that?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
I swear the strongest thing that we had probably was Mountain Dew, and not the kind of Mountain Dew associated with West Virginia, where this was. But we were up on the third floor of this really old stately house. And I remember that I had a recorder, even back before I really knew what I was doing. I had a recorder, and I was trying to record things, and we had a camera. And this was before the age of digital, and so you just tried to, take a roll of film and hope that you get something, which I very rarely ever did. But we had that sort of stuff, and we also had an old Coleman lantern. Those of you who've been camping know exactly what I mean. And we had a transistor radio, and I remember that we were listening to. It was about maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were listening to a station out of Richmond, Virginia that was all classical, and it was crystal clear. It was classical music, and we all had sleeping bags, and we were just sort of camping out in this top floor. And we had visited this house on a number of occasions, and nothing really had happened. So we just thought, well, really the accounts of this house being haunted was really exaggerated. But we were there in one evening, and I had the recorder on all the time, and as trying just to capture anything we could, which now it's EVP's electronic voice phenomenon, but we just really didn't know what we would get. But as suddenly the tape recorder quit, and I managed to finagle with it, and then it quit again, and I finagled with it and got it started again, and then it quit the third time. And then when it quit that third time, the radio switched off, and then the Coleman lantern just went dead, and then the front door slammed, and then we heard really clear and distinct footsteps coming up the stairway, and we were on the third floor, so we knew that whatever it was, it had us between, it was between us and the ground, I remember setting up, and the word that I said was, "For God's sake, get the light." And then immediately the light came back on, the recorder came back on, and the radio came back on. And that might not sound too scary in retrospect, but that really, really cleared my sinuses at that point, because that was the very first time that I had an encounter with a ghost that was external. I think that to that degree, I had encountered things before, primarily in the home where I lived and my grandparents' home, but that really was a really, really eye-opening experience for me, and it really solidified, even after all these years later, that the paranormal really, honestly, is there, and that you need to treat it with all the respect in the world. And then I'll relate one other story. I was investigating the USS North Carolina over in Wilmington, and I had received permission from the captain to research it, and I had Danny Bradshaw was the caretaker of the ship at night, and he wrote Ghosts of the USS North Carolina, which is really a nice read. And he had set me up in the North Carolina, and I was the only one on board, and he had actually got me started, and gave me total access to the boat, and then he left, and so I'm there all by myself. And I'd worked my way down, maybe 4 decks down, maybe 5 decks down. I was working down to where, if you know the history of the USS North Carolina, where the torpedo hit, and in World War II, where they were hit, and they lost maybe 4 or 5 sailors. And I was working my way down there, and I had a number of different lights, and I always charge all my lights, and I have fresh batteries, and I always do that on the investigation. And I was about 4 decks down, maybe 5, and I lost all power to all my flashlights And if you understand anything about battleships, there was no electricity in this part of the boat, and so it was absolute pitch dark. And the thing that was scary about that was the fact that if you make a misstep and you're in a battleship, you could fall several decks on steel and concrete, and you're just dead. And so, and I remember Danny talking about that things like that had happened. As a matter of fact, I'd done an investigation with him on the ship, and we'd lost power down there too, but we had just enough power to get back. He recognized it, but when I was down there on that time, there was no warning. It's not like that my flashlights faded. They just went completely out, and I didn't have cell phone access down there. But I was really, really lucky because the cell phone I had just it had a little flashlight on it, one of those little buttons that you push, and I was able to use that to work my way up. And it didn't scare me for the paranormal aspect, but it really did scare me because that, well, I didn't know what was going to happen, too. I guess I say that it didn't scare me for the paranormal aspect because anything could have happened. And from the ghost that Danny described seeing on there, almost, Jay, it kind of leads credence to what you say about demons because he reports in his book, and he will tell you bone-chilling stories about he will have this sailor that will appear before him, sometimes on the ship where his head's on fire. Now, whether or not that's just a loop in time to where that's the way that this particular sailor died, but I'm just really, really glad that whatever it was that took my power, which is a fairly common, all of us that do these type of investigations know that happens from time to time, but I'm really glad that wasn't in combination with this particular entity showing itself to me, because that really could have been, that's basically we say that a ghost probably will not hurt you. They probably can't even touch you, no more than you can touch them. But at the same time, they could scare you to where you turn and run and fall. And when I go out and I sometimes will do, workshops with college classes and things, or people who want to study the paranormal, and even go into public schools and talk about it. I've been invited into public schools to talk about this type of thing. And you always warn people to never go alone. And I was alone. I really violated my own principles there. But also to always to know where you are and how you can get out, and to be careful. Like, you can fall down steps, you can fall through floors that are, if you're in old haunted locations and all that kind of stuff. But those two things really stand out as the two things that I thought really kind of scared me the most for different reasons.
All right.
Wow, that's some stories.
I'm going to say you guys can email us at worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com if you've got any questions for Dr. Proffit, because I don't know what's going on with the chat room. I can't get back in it, and I know people are there. I can see them there. I just can't see what they're saying. So
I still think it's a liberal conspiracy.
I know it is.
You've been locked out of your own chat room.
I have.
Like you said, Alan Combs.
I'm going to have to pick up the phone and
That's
dial
what he
Sean
likes
Hannity.
to do when he's not running his show. Is
kind of mess with me, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're like number 3.
He's just
on the
mad
list.
because Sean Hannity bullies him around so much.
But another thing, Jay, you were there, and Trent, you were there for part of it, but I think, Jay, you were actually in the room. One of the most interesting, it wasn't scary, but one of the most interesting occurrences, I think, was when we were at Twin Lakes, and we were all up into, the room where I had recorded, I guess it's been referred to as the fire pictures that I took at Twin Lakes, actually, which helped to get John Zaffa's attention. But we were all up there, and it was really interesting because at one point during that investigation, half of us heard a sound that almost sounded like a washing machine with tennis shoes in it, and half of the crowd didn't hear it. And that was really, really odd and unusual, too. And actually, at that point, I was using some digital equipment to measure the temperature, and there was a cold mist that was swirling around the room, and it clearly was. It was going circular around where we were, and actually, I hear sometimes people talking about, well, there was a temperature dip of 20 degrees, and that certainly wasn't the case here, but it was between 5 and 7 degrees that the temperature was fluctuating in this room, and there really wasn't any way to explain that either.
Well, didn't your alarm go off at like midnight or something crazy?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah, I remember
one
that.
of the things that absolutely, yeah, right at midnight, and it hadn't been set, and that's one of the things that Anita, when she first started asking for someone to come in, look, that the electrical equipment at Twin Lakes would be malfunctioning. There would be things that they absolutely were positive that they turned off that would be on, which would be lights, heating units, ceiling fans, and those type of things. They would hear voices. And things would be moved and that kind of stuff. And yeah, and I did experience that my alarm that had not been set, had not dealt with at all, right at the stroke of midnight went off, which was really, really interesting too.
That's true. Coupled with
we were on the air at that particular point, and if you remember too, while we were on the air, that stereo unit behind us turned itself off. You remember that?
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember Scott.
That's when I screamed like a little girl.
Scott jumping like a little baby, and then
Chuck freaked out pretty good too. Chuck's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, well, that was the soundboard too. I mean, that was right after them.
I think that was one of the best things of live radio that I have ever seen, because I'm
in chat.
Stage that any better?
I'm in the chat room. I got in.
That was pretty impressive too. I mean, it just for it to happen right when we were live.
Exactly.
That worked out really well. Yeah, we had just started, and then boom, boom, one right after the other, and that stuff happened. I remember you guys were really.
The rest was kind of a letdown, I guess, to me, because it happened all at the beginning.
Yeah. The rest was a letdown.
Oh,
come on,
now.
Give me a break. It was high charged, intense craziness. It was
pretty much the whole time. But I don't think I was up in that other room.
I was in a feverish delirium.
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't up there with us at that time?
Not in that upper room.
You were downstairs.
I went downstairs to the basement, but I don't think I went up to the upper room because I was there with. I think while you guys were doing that, I was with Doug and. Chuck was there, and I think that was it. I think the rest of you guys went up there, and so I missed that.
And I was down there whispering. I was like, Doug.
That's timing on your part.
Trying the mic,
and that's one of those times that, and I know that your listeners that are listening to this that really do know the name John Zaffis, and hate to be dropping names, but, John's one of the, it was a major coup that you pulled off to get him to come to Greensburg and help with that investigation, but he is just one of the giants in the field.
Oh, absolutely.
And at one point he even got up and stopped what was going on as far as the investigation. It was because he really, truly was concerned that we were inviting something in that we really didn't need to invite in. And that comes back to what you talk about so often, Jay, is the fact, and I really like to, I hope that Trent from time to time gets the chance to tell his stories, because he's had some amazing stories too.
Well, I've got a question from the chat room for you, though, Al, that's kind of in that along those lines. PMD, I'm going to get back. Thank you, D. Phyllis, I'm going to get back to your question in a second, but this is from Ben. Question: I believe that ghosts are demons. Good job, Ben. I'm right there with you. Saying this, has the good doctor ever used holy water in his investigations? Me and some buds prayed over some water, thus making it holy, and used it. When ghost hunting, a lot of freaky things happen, such as alarms going off, lights turning off, etc.
I have never used holy water, and that's not to say that I don't respect it. I guess I question my own abilities to use it. Actually, that's even one of the things that I talked to John about when we were in Greensboro, because there's a number of things you can do. Some people will burn sage, some people will use holy water, but I do go armed. By that I mean that I have, usually on my person at all times, a religious symbol that means a lot to me, usually in the form of a cross, or I have something that has particular spiritual meaning to me, either in my pocket or in my hand, and it's not something that I broadcast that I know, but when I'm there, and also anytime I do an investigation, I do it prayerfully. I don't go into it, I don't go into it lightheartedly. I don't go into it, even though that they're exciting, and actually we had some fun at Greensboro. There's no doubt about it. If you listen to the podcast, you can tell that we're really having fun in addition to that. But once an investigation really starts, it's a serious thing, and I do it prayerful, because that, while I do believe that there's a difference, and you don't, but I do believe there's a difference between ghosts and demons. I do believe that sometimes demons are no doubt really, really powerful, and they are really, really intelligent, and if we don't give them their due, that they will use that to crush you with, and a demon could pass itself off as just some kind of harmless type of ghost. So I really go into it prayerful, and I go into it with something that means a lot to me. But I've never used holy water, but that might be because of my religious upbringing. I don't remember much about using holy water in the Methodist Church, and so maybe I just use what Methodists would do. I'm not exactly sure, and the Methodists might excommunicate me after this because they might say, well, we don't go hunting ghosts at all.
Oh well, just join the Episcopalians. They take the homos now. But wait, I've got a couple more questions here, man.
All right, go ahead.
This is from Phyllis. Has Al ever come across a case that was beyond the usual quote poltergeist case, something darker? If so, how did he handle it?
Well, not firsthand. Back to Greensboro. I think that we were really close to that, and that when John got up and said and stopped that investigation, I think we were very close to something very dark at that particular point. And at that time, it appears as though that there was an entity that was wanting to speak through an individual, and that kind of stuff just scares me. I'll be honest with you. I asked John Zaffis this question, and to answer this question, John, do you ever get scared? And John really was very, very clear about that. He said, if you are in this business of studying and researching the paranormal and you don't get scared, that there's either one or two things that's happening. Number one, you really don't believe in it, or number two, you have so underestimated the power of what you're investigating that you really need to get out, because it really is, some of it is frightening, and I think that's what was about. It's possible that's what was getting ready to happen in Greensboro before John shut the investigation down, that part of the investigation down. But myself, I have interviewed people that experienced that. I cannot say that I have experienced it myself. Now, but also too, I will be very, very honest that when I think that there's demonic activity, I shy away from it because I don't know that I've got the power to deal with it. Just like the power of using the holy water, and I'm not sure that I don't have the power of exorcism. I wouldn't try exorcism. I think that that's better left up to priests and shaman and people who really, truly know what they're doing with that. And I'm just really afraid that if I go in and I start messing with that, I'm either going to make the situation worse or I'm going to invite an entity into me, and I'm really not up for either one of those things.
Okay, we got one more question. This is from Jen, Jen, I'm not sure. Question for the guest: why would a ghost be afraid of a cross if it's a person coming back to Earth?
Well, and that comes to support my belief that a ghost wouldn't be afraid of a cross, that a demon might be, but that a ghost wouldn't. So that's why I believe that there are ghosts and that there are demons, because that I think when I have those artifacts of my belief with me, I have certainly experienced ghosts with those things, and they have shown no fear at all. Neither have I held it up like in the classic Hollywood movies, like
back, I say,
be gone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I haven't done any of that, but I don't think that a ghost would be afraid of a cross, because I really believe that. I think at the very worst that a ghost might not believe that they're dead and they're really trying to find their way to the other side. I think that's possible. But, those of anybody in the paranormal business that absolutely say that they figured out the ghost, that's just not true in my opinion, because we really truly don't understand about the other side yet, and maybe we never will. Maybe the twain never will meet there. But I don't think that a ghost would be afraid of the cross. I think a ghost, as a matter of fact, might be drawn toward the cross, trying to find their way to the light.
That's interesting. You got any more, Scott?
No, I was just thinking about how, the whole scene about Get Back, and, I thought about the movie Fright Night and how great of a film that is.
Okay.
So if y'all haven't seen that, guys, go out and check out Fright Night, because it's a great movie. Fright Night 2 kind of sucked, but the first one, I was actually going to try to get... Well, I was going to try to get the guy that played the kid that turned into the werewolf in Fright Night, because I was like, that'd be a good guy to get on the show. He's kind of in the background there. And it would kind of bring a unique thing to the show. And then I looked him up, and come to find out, he's done tons more movies since that. but they all seem to be some kind of gay erotica films. So I decided that, I didn't think that he would probably like the vibe of our show. I call me crazy, right?
You're psychic.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So my guess is after you heard the introduction to your show, you'd have a dial tone by the time you were bringing him on.
Uh-oh.
A bad warning. But they are. I just want to make this note. August 31st is the new release of the Halloween film. They've remade it.
Yeah, well, Rob Zombie is directing it,
unfortunately,
right?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Well, he may.
I don't know. I hope he doesn't butcher it.
No.
I don't know. We'll see.
Butcher a movie about
I didn't
butchery.
realize there was a remake, though.
It's a remake of the original Halloween film, and I like the Carpenter original. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of chat again. Hang on.
Wouldn't be hard to recreate that first original Carpenter make of Halloween, I would think.
Oh, yeah, on a limited budget.
And it was so low budget, and it was really, really good, partly because it was low budget.
Maybe so. I mean, sometimes you get all of that big flash and bang, and it just covers up the fact of a poorly written story and bad acting, you know? That's just basically how I feel about a lot of modern
Now we've
films.
got lots of money and bad directing.
Right. They sort of lose.
That's true. And a lot of blood and guts take the place of some really good scary stuff.
That's true. I mean, I was telling Scott about this movie I saw not too long ago, the new Stephen King film, 1408.
I still want to see that.
It was very psychologically disturbing. Like, the horror was really mainly in your head mostly, and there wasn't a lot of blood and guts. In fact, there was very little of it at all. But I mean, that movie had such an effect on me. And
oh, really? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was very.
I'll get that as soon as I can. It's not out on video yet, is it?
No, I don't believe so. But it was a very good film. Like once I got out of it, for a little while there, I was walking around and I was like, I don't know if I'm really out of the film yet. That's the kind of a movie it was. But my point was that a lot of younger people that I had spoken with and heard that had seen the film didn't really like it at all. And I wonder if it wasn't for the fact that it was so very bloodless, I guess a perspective. Yeah, you had to kind of think about it, and it had to get inside your brain, or I don't know, a certain mental maturity that you could appreciate it. But
yeah, but boy, isn't that the best kind of movie though? Those psychological thrillers that you really, your imagination rather than the visual is really the main ingredient in that. I agree with you so much.
I mean, it's really, the horror is really generated in your mind. I mean, your imagination can do wonders to scare you more than anything else.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
That's like if you remember the movie Psycho, the original Psycho.
Oh gosh,
there was very little blood in that.
Yeah, but that was such a that movie still bothers me. I'm just the very concept of it is just really.
Yeah, but now there is a movie that really bothers me, and it is one of those, and it has a lot of visual in it, and I guess you either really, really do respect and are scared of this movie, or you're not. But the original Exorcist.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, even the
whole concept of demon possession just really, really bothers me.
Oh, even the last one they made really scared me to death. Al, we're coming up on our hard break, so we've got 30 seconds, but we're going to return with you, and I want to talk about some creepy film you got in a local church.
Oh, I'd like to talk about that. That's great. And let me say, I really appreciate you guys, you and Trent having me on. This is really great.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate this opportunity.
We've been meaning to do this for a while.
Out. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, I have the greatest respect for both of you.
Uh-oh. He doesn't know us that well, then. No. All right. So,
likewise.
Hang tight with us, guys. We'll be back with Dr. Al Proffit here on World of the Unexplained, and you can check into chat with us and let us know what you think. We'll be back in just a few moments. And we're back. World of the Unexplained, Dr. Al Proffit. We do have a email question. Hey, Jay and the gang, I am listening tonight. First of all, here's his comments on the Ron Mexico situation.
Let's hear him.
This is from Ron Paul Hunter, a former guest of ours. I think, as usual, that civil defense is the answer, and thus, Mr. Vick should have to provide for a unique solution to this problem that uses his already popular status to, quote, do good. The idea, he starts up a kennel program in every county in the nation to train and properly use dogs for civil defense, and thus draw the whole population segment that might turn into dog fighting and give them very hard, challenging environments to work with animals. That's how I think about it. Also, the question here, and this is, check out Ron Paul Hunter on our podcast if you get a chance. But the question here is, tell me a ghost story about Blowing Rock. Are there any Native American ghosts?
Oh, gosh, this is really interesting because I'm just a year here into Watauga County, and this county is so rich in ghost stories and ghost legends, and and there are, I'm not that familiar with them. I haven't investigated anything at Blowing Rock yet, but there are those stories. And I tell you, someone, a North Carolina author that you might want to check out is Michael Renniger, who writes about, he writes a lot about, even at Appalachian State, there's supposedly haunted buildings and haunted dorms and all that kind of stuff. And he also talks, if I remember right, he talks about maybe some stuff at Blowing Rock, and he also talks about, Vallecrucis and different places in Watauga. And he's really, it's an interesting book. I think it's called Roadside Renovants. And he also talks about the Lawson murders. He's an expert in, if you remember, the Lawson, which is it's attributed to Payne Road over in Forsyth County. I think it's in Forsyth, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's Stokes.
Oh, we've got a Payne Road.
Yeah, that's the Payne Road. It's
I never can. Do I find the wrong road every night when I was 16, or did I find the right one? It's the dirt road that shoots off.
It's between Forsyth and Stokes County.
It's really not. It's really not Payne Road. Really, it's what is it? Isn't it Edwards or Edmonds? Edmonds, one of those two, Edmonds or Edwards Road, and I don't know, and I'll also say, too, if anybody's listening to this in Carolina and they decide to get up and drive over there, that it's pretty heavily policed now because of all that. But so
I'll drive over there, Al. I don't care.
Well, I do, too. So, but
the cops need probable cause, Al. Just remember that. Call me. We'll get you going on there. We'll take care of it.
That's what I'll do. Instead of taking me to your leader, take me to Jay.
That's right. Give them my card. They'll know it's over right then.
But, that's really interesting because you kind of wonder, because that's also too where they picked up the prostitute. Many years later, within the last 10, 15 years ago, those three guys picked up the prostitute one in Greensboro, and then took her to close to that site and really brutally murdered her.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this story.
I don't think I've heard that one.
Tell us this story.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not familiar with it.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
And I'm really having a hard time drawing to bringing that back as to who actually was convicted of that. But it was three cousins, I think, and they picked up the prostitute, and they took her over, and they tied her to a tree, and they sexually abused her and slowly sexually tortured her to death. And,
oh, my God.
And then one of the questions and it was not that far away from the same place where Lawson killed his family on Christmas Day. Probably the most infamous murder case in all North Carolina history. And then you had this other horrific murder that took place. And I remember I was talking to, I keep dropping John Zaffis' name. I can drop other people. We can talk about Lloyd Auerbach if you want to in a little bit, or I know Trent and Jay, too, personally, and, But the thing about it is one of the questions John and I were talking on the phone, and I asked him, is it possible that there is particular pieces of land, and this goes back to the Blowing Rock question, that maybe not in the case of Blowing Rock being evil, but are there spirits, are there earthbound spirits that are associated with, pieces of land, or can there be evilness associated with certain pieces of land? And certainly that's a possibility, but we really do believe that spirits can be associated with houses or with objects, and certainly with land, and especially as far as Native American goes, because it seems like that's just such a rich history of it. You talk about so many different cases of paranormal. It seems like you can trace it back to that there was an Indian burial ground there. And, for example, in my work with haunted schools, it seems like to me that most of the time that I'm dealing with something that really, really has some merit to it as far as being a haunted location, as far as the school is concerned, that there was an American Indian burial ground associated with it. And then one of my most fascinating investigations was it was a school in Hawaii, and it was built. The school actually has to remain anonymous because that's the confidentiality of the research that I do. When I investigate a school, I have the superintendent and the principal's permission to make it public, and I don't have, but I investigated this particular school, and talking to the principal and talking to the counselor, and the counselor was also a minister. But they just reported all these horrendous things happening in their school, even to the point that they had where I was a principal, we had fire drills and we had stuff like that. This school actually has poltergeist or paranormal drills, and that really sounds funny. But there were certain rooms in this school where objects would begin to fly off of bookshelves or off of the wall, and teachers would know to immediately remove kids from that room and take them to the library, which is really fascinating. And then when you investigate this, you find out that this site that this school was built on was centuries ago was a site that they used to sacrifice children to the gods.
Oh, wonderful.
So you can just imagine the residual energy on that land.
Can we say demon? No.
Yeah, that's a good.
I would say demons, and this minister, the counselor, was a Pentecostal minister, and basically he was having trouble with the church because he was saying that I really believe there's demonic activity occurring here in this school, and it's impacting children. And we're frightened for that particular thing. And the principal was just verifying everything that he was saying. He said, I've seen it, I've witnessed it, and we're not embellishing, we're not making it up. And so that's really fascinating. And then that comes to where the point, I don't even know if you could exercise that. If somebody built, and there are schools that school systems, and hey, I'm a former superintendent of schools, and I know when you can buy land and you can buy it at a decent price, you do it, because you do, and you cut, you try to build schools as cost efficiently as you can, and sometimes you do goofy things, buy property in floodplains or old graveyards. And I don't think any of those are really sound when you go look at it, but most people just think that, well, the floodplain, I can understand what he's talking about, but a graveyard, hey, who cares? Let's just put a parking lot over it.
That's it.
Yeah. And that's usually not a good idea.
No, I mean, but that's a good point that you bring up. I mean, these locations, I mean, you think about it, for like hundreds of years, some native indigenous people practice some kind of religious ceremony. First of all, you have to believe that maybe there was a reason why they chose that particular spot in the first place. And then second of all, just the years of the worship. I don't really know how to describe it, but it does seem to sort of blanket an area with some kind of residual energy that just kind of resonates through the centuries.
I do agree with you.
Why don't you ever hear of any like haunted concentration camp type things in Germany?
That's a good point.
I'm sorry?
I've wondered that. I don't know the answer to that question, and I think that is a marvelous question to ask. And I don't know the answer to that. What's your thought on that?
I don't know. I mean,
shock. There's no limbo in Judaism. Anyway,
we could use Soviet work camps, for example. That's the same principle. Or the killing fields in Vietnam.
Straight across the board here.
Any kind of terrible place where there are mass graves or mass executions going on. What about Jonestown and what was that down South America? I mean,
absolutely.
You wonder about these places where there's such enormous death happen. Well, battlefields are notoriously known to be haunted because of all the death that happens.
Gettysburg for sure, and all like that. Yeah.
So why not a place where the death happens? It's just not,
The Great Wall of China.
The Great Wall of China. Why not? I don't know. I mean,
because if these fields in Cambodia, and of course it could be that they are. I don't know, but that's you really do not typically associate a whole lot of ghostly activity with the concentration camps, do you?
No, I've never heard of anything.
Last summer, I had really good opportunity to. I did a couple things. I was fortunate enough to represent the United States at an Oxford roundtable on education. And while I was over in Oxford, I also took that opportunity to visit some places in Ireland and Scotland. And one of the places that I went in Scotland was the underground there, the vaults under Edinburgh. And supposedly the most haunted place in all of Great Britain. And I'm telling you, I took some amazing photographs down there. I mean, they really, truly are things that I have absolutely no way of explaining.
Wow.
And it's like it did live up to its billing. That's one of the few places that's kind of a touristy kind of trap that you can go into. But also when I went in and I took these photographs, and you go back and you process these, or you load them on the computer, and you think, My gosh. And by the way, Jay, I did find those photographs, and I'm going to get those to you.
Thank you.
I found them after years. Well, it's been like we were, 16 when those pictures were taken. And I finally found them, and I don't know why that they were so terribly lost, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to load those onto a CD and just send them to you. Rather than try to send them to you over the net, there's a bunch of them.
Okay, great.
So I'll do that and get those pictures to you from the Greensboro experience.
Awesome. We'll post them on our site.
There's and we can talk about, are orbs real or what, is that just...
Hang on. Do you want to ask if you liked Edinburgh Castle?
Oh, yeah, really much.
Dee visited there.
Yeah.
I like the whole town of Edinburgh. I mean, even... let's just even forget the paranormal part of it. I mean, I saw people there that were paranormal. It's almost enough to turn you into a conservative, but not quite.
Wow.
No, I did see some really, really interesting people there who really, truly want to be vampire-like. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And that kind of thing, and I really did get to see that, but there was. I found the vaults of Edinburgh really to be the real deal. When you go down there, if you do that. I also had the chance, then I'll counterbalance this with a little bit of, but we had some film footage here recently that kind of maybe gave this credence, but also was able to cruise Loch Ness. I was looking for Nessie. But,
cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was really, really cool. I mean, for no other reason, I got to see Madonna's Pink Castle. I didn't get to see Nessie, but I got to see Madonna's Pink Castle, which was pretty good. That's a close second.
Wow, a pink castle.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It really is.
Eat your heart out, Ron Mexico.
Yeah, she's got a pink castle.
Yeah, but you kind of wonder that you look at the money that we make as regular individuals, and then you have somebody not only can buy a castle, they can now paint it pink. I think our society's paying some people too much money.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
It's like Michael Vick. Michael Vick makes too much money. I'm sorry, I don't care what he. The debate. I do care because I think it's horrendous what he did. I really truly like animals, and I respect animals and the rights of animals, and I think it's horrendous what he did. But when you look, like, for example, I really love baseball, but when you look at Alex Rodriguez and for the New York Yankees makes more money in 1 year than I had to run. He makes $10 million more per year than I had to run an entire school system of 2,600 kids. There's something off-kilter with our society at that point.
That is really messed up. I do agree that sports stars and entertainers really get overpaid, but we're going on a way far off tangent anyway. So,
yeah, that's true.
As true as it is. But,
I want you to talk about that ghost video that we saw that you shot in the church.
Yeah, I did shoot, and as you know, that this is a church that, we really can't name where it is or even give the name of it, but it's one of those churches that has its folk legend that it's haunted, and this church is so far out in the woods. It has no electricity. It has no heat. It has. They can only use it in the regular, I guess the regular. They can't use it in the winter, is what I'm trying to say, and they can't use it at night unless you bring in external lighting. And but I had heard that for a long time that this church was haunted, and I had done 2 or 3 investigations, and I always had freaky things happen there. And so then a few years ago, it was Easter Saturday night, and there was a full moon, and I thought this is the perfect time. And this church is so isolated, and I have actually tried to identify who I would talk to get permission to show the video that I shot in this church. And to this point, I don't know the denomination. I just know the name of the church, and I've never found anybody there. But there's also a cemetery across the way. So I went up on Easter Saturday night, and like I said, it was a full moon. It was a clear night, and so I went in and I set up equipment in the church. I set up night vision camera. I set up some recorders. And I have a few cameras with me, and I ended up taking no photographs, and that'll come out why in just a moment. But anyway, so I set up the night vision camera, and I set up 2 or 3 different recorders that are voice-activated recorders. By that, if most people know what we're talking about, but that's when you start speaking, the recorder automatically turns itself on, and when, people that do paranormal investigations oftentimes use that and get some really good stuff with it. Because it will turn itself on when you don't hear anything, and then there will be voices, electronic voice phenomenon there. But I'm setting up there, and I'm sitting there for about 20 minutes, and it's total and complete darkness. I cannot even see the back of the church, even though there's a full moon. By the way that the trees are and everything, there's no light in this church that I actually can see.
And you're there by yourself.
And I'm there by myself. Again, I'm violating my principle, don't go alone. And here I am. I couldn't find anybody to go with me, but I thought this is just too good. It's Easter. It's a full moon. And, just this church it was really almost like a calling to me to come up there. And so I'm sitting behind the pulpit, and I am very reverent. Now, I will tell you, I know that my mother would really turn me every which way, but if she thought I was in any way irreverent inside a church. And so I'm up in the pulpit and behind the pulpit, and I'm being very, very quiet and very, very silent and being very respectful. And then I get the feeling that, there's not a whole lot happening, so I will see if I can communicate. And as some paranormal investigators do, and I do on occasion, I begin to talk and ask if there were any entities there, and ask the entity if there were entities there, would it respond by using a knock, 1 for yes and 2 for no. And so I begin to talk, and originally that there's nothing. And then I asked the question, did the entities there realize that Jesus Christ lived and died for our sins? And the church came alive. I am just telling you, it just came alive. And there were knocks and bangs coming from different parts of the church. This is all on video. And you can hear it's video, and it has audio as well. And you can hear the audio.
Oh, yeah.
And it begins to answer, my questions. And then you hear me you can see me on the tape saying, there's someone here with me, or there's something here with me. And what I still can't see what's going on, but what you can see on the video, and I had Brian Irish, who works with Lemur, who's really, really good with technology and really good with cameras. And he went in and he lightened this film the best you can. Even though I'm shooting with night vision, it's hard for you to shoot from one end of the church to the other. But he lightened it up to the point that what you can see is the camera is beginning to go in and out of focus. It's trying to focus on something. It detects that there's something there, but yet it can't be picked up on video. And you see it going in and out of focus, and then you see it all becoming all dark. But then what you see is in the background, you actually see the door opening. And there's no wind. There's nothing. You see this door opening and closing, which is, and you see it also at the time that where I'm responding. And I tell you, I felt a presence that was just unmistakable. And it wasn't scary. It was just that I knew that I was no longer alone. I mean, there was an entity there with me. I knew it, but also felt very comforted in the fact that I was inside a church. I felt very comforted in the fact that I felt like I was there with God. I was there with Jesus. However you want to put it, and people can say, well, that's just really goofy. It wasn't goofy if you were there all by yourself on Easter Saturday night. You really, truly did want the presence of God with you.
No, we saw the tape, and it's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it is. And then when I asked I said, well, do you want me to leave? And there was an unmistakable yes. I mean, just a very clear rap yes.
And Al took off so quick.
Yeah, you see me putting my
How
stuff
quickly
together.
did you take off there, Al?
Well, I did. And then I remembered I hadn't taken any photographs at all. And then, so I got to the end of the church, and, like some, ignorant person, I said, well, would you mind if I took a few photographs before I left? And then John Zaffis, that also watched the video, told me that I captured something that Hollywood has produced, but few people have actually caught on film. It's called a ghost whistle. And you hear, when I ask that question, you hear like this wind just raise out of nowhere. And then you hear this type of sound. And so, within about 5 minutes, I was in my car and it was Wagons West at that point. But it really was. It was one of the most remarkable things. But, I didn't relate that with the other stories because it really didn't scare me. But then again, I really didn't understand what I'd captured either. I didn't see the door. It was so completely dark that I did not see that the door was that opened and closed. I just felt the presence. But
you can clearly see it on the tape though, where the door slowly opens up and then shuts.
That just gives me the creeps.
But you just couldn't see that with your normal eyes because it was so dark in the room.
No, could not see that at all. And then also, too, the tape runs for about 35, 40 minutes, and you just saw a condensed version. As you're listening to me, it also really, really is interesting listening to the pops and the cracks. as like when it's very, very quiet until, like I said, I started talking about Jesus Christ, and then the church just became alive, and I began to have all kinds of responses to my questions. And that probably was just about my most successful, I guess it really was my most successful paranormal investigation. I've had some other really good ones. Greensboro was really good. The USS North Carolina was really good. The one I talked about when I was a kid was really good. And I've had a few others. And, I've taken some other really interesting photographs, too. And, I think you saw those. I took a picture once of a... And again, Brian Irish helps me, and he's teaching me to use some of the technology that I need. But I took a picture of a house once that I was investigating, and I try to employ the scientific method the best I can into all my research. So I'll take the same shot 5 different times to make sure that it's controlled, to make sure that there just wasn't something that was was a reflection or a flash or something. And I was investigating a particular house, and it's just the weirdest thing because there's this black cat just peering through the window, and there is absolutely no possible way there could have been a cat on a tree looking in this window. And then when Brian begins to embellish this, there are other things going on that too. And, I've taken a number of photographs of where there were faces in the windows and there was clearly no one there. And, there's a picture of... I was investigating the Smith McDowell house in Asheville, North Carolina, and I really like, again, I'll drop his name one more time and then I'll quit, but John Zaffis actually told me that he hated me for 2 reasons. Number one, that I'd taken the video that I had in the church, and that the second one was this, it's probably the sweetest picture of a little girl looking out the window, and there was no one in this house.
I don't think it was sweet at all. I think it's creepy.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think it's sweet. She's just and it could be one of those things that you're talking about to where, that a demon is making itself look like that. But this looks like a sweet 9, 10-year-old girl in maybe dressed in the period of the 1850s to 1870s, and she's just staring out this window. And it's just... that's probably one of my, I really like the fact that John said, this is an amazing photograph because you're one of the few people that's actually taken a picture of a ghost. And I really, truly did like that. And I've sent that photograph to different people in the paranormal field, and nobody's been able to explain that one. So.
Yeah, that was a wild photo.
Amazing photograph.
I'm going to give your email address out before we take our last break of the night.
Yeah, and I'd like to hear from anybody that would like to write and share stories with me. And actually, I really am in the business of trying to help people if I can.
And that email address is helpforthehaunted@yahoo.com. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah, helpforthehaunted@yahoo.com, right.
So anybody who wants to email Dr. Al Proffit, you can do it there. And that email address is actually spurring on the a new book that you're working on as well, correct?
Yeah, I am, and unfortunately the day job's getting in the way because the people at the university really want me to write about superintendents and principals and stuff like that. But it is a work that's coming along fairly well and would really, really like to think that maybe in a year and a half that I can have a final product of that. It's certainly a labor of love, and I really am enjoying that.
All right, well, Al, hang tight with us. We're going to be back here in just a second. For those of you that want to give a question to Dr. Al Proffit, put a question to him at our email address, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com, because right now the phone line is, that we normally use, those phone lines are down. Due to our moving, and also the chat room, I for some reason just can't get into the blasted thing. So give us a shout through email, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com, and we'll be right back with Dr. Al Proffit after this. And we're back, World of the Unexplained, Dr. Al Proffit. We were just I saw the questions that just bombarded me on our Gmail account. And everyone seemed to be wanting to know where in the world can they get their hands on this video, Al?
And we were talking about that, while we were on commercial break. And at one point I was ready to post that thing, and then my friend, who's now an attorney, told me that, since I didn't have written permission to do that, and that he dropped, legal terms like trespassing.
I'm just looking out for you, man.
There's no breaking and entering here because the church is never locked. That's another weird thing about this, and I forgot to mention that this church is so strange and unusual. that you can lock this church from the outside. You can lock somebody into this church. You all help me to explain this, but the lock is actually, if you're standing outside the church, you can lock it, and somebody that's inside, they're locked inside. They can't get out. The lock on this church is backwards, which isn't that unusual? Because most of the time you'll have a lock that when you close the door, you can lock it from inside. Well, on this particular church, the lock is when you come out of the church, you lock it. And then anybody on the outside can unlock the church and go in. But if you're on the inside, you can be locked in. Which is very, very odd.
That is very strange.
Yeah, I've even
keep the parishioners there, Chuck.
Keep the parishioners there. My gosh.
For those 4-hour mega sermons, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm guessing that has something to do with it.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Maybe when they were forced to, give up where the preachers would have those big sticks and those big rods and slap people who were going to sleep. We can't do that anymore.
That's some old school religion right there.
That's the only way I could keep people alive when I was. Not keep them alive, but keep them awake alive too. I don't know when I was delivering some of my sermons. I remember, even I'd be doing this, and my father, who's no longer with us, but he would be listening, and I'd look back, and he'd be pointing at his watch. But at any rate, that is very, very unusual about that. But I've never posted that. I've only showed that to friends and people that I know personally because of, I really do have this desire at my age not to go to jail at any point. I've made it this far without it. And I think when you just looked at me so sincerely and said, this is trespassing.
It is.
Probably, and then I thought, well, I'll get permission. I've actually gone back to that church 2 or 3 times trying to find some way to contact someone that could give me permission to use this, and I've never been successful. I mean, it would be easy if it was like, it's not a Baptist, it's not a Methodist, it's not Episcopalian, it's not associated evidently with any organized religion, and I'm not exactly sure who owns the church or if it is owned or if a church owns it. So that's why this video has never been published. But I will continue to try to do that. And then if I do that, then what I'd like to do is maybe I could use your show as an avenue then to post that and then.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we would love it.
The general statute of limitations on misdemeanors is generally about 2 years, Al. So
I thought it was 7. Now you're not just saying that.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I can actually show that to you when we meet each other again. Or I can email you some stuff about it. But and if it's been 2 years, then hey,
go for it.
No harm, no foul.
I was kind of wondering about this church, though. I mean, you say you can't just figure out the nature of the denomination. I mean, surely there's some kind of symbology, either in the stained glass or the architecture of the church or something in there that might give you some clues as to what it might be. I'm no theological expert, but I wonder about that.
It's really, really odd. On the church, on the steeple of the church, there's a cross, and honest to goodness, this is like if all you need is a good fog, and you've got an exorcist type thing going here, because the cross is just a little crooked, and it's just kind of leaning like it's been, hit by lightning or something. It's just sort of leaning, and then you go in and know there's, because I know, like in remembrance of this, when as the Methodists might have,
right.
That's my frame of reference. But there are shelves that go around. There's no stained glass, by the way. They're all just regular windows, just like regular house windows. But the shelf that goes around, it just has like Christmas ornament type things, like the shepherds, and that kind of stuff, and like maybe the Virgin Mary. But there's nothing really even hanging off the pulpit that identifies it with any particular denomination.
That is really strange.
It's very, very odd. It's like multi-denominational or non-denominational.
It's odd. So, I had a question. I mean, basically, one of my bigger. Okay. But really, the question I've been thinking about for a while. What do you get out of this by doing this? I mean, what drives you to keep on doing it, and what do you hope to get out of these investigations?
Well,
let me throw a question in from the chat room real quick before you answer that. And that question was something that I should have brought up. I didn't even think about it, but why don't you just show up on Sunday and ask the church? that was a question.
Well, that's a really, really good question. I no longer live in that area. It's about a 5-hour drive from me.
And you know the
at that particular point, but that's I wasn't smart enough when I was in that area to actually do that. And I want whoever said that in the chat room. It's a heck of an idea, and that's probably what I should do.
Well, you know,
that's really a good suggestion.
The thing is too. I mean, it could be one of those. See, being such a small church, it could be one of those places where, you know, like I know my uncle's a minister for a small church in Virginia, where you're looking at, you know, you meet once a month or something, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something like those old country churches like that. I don't know.
Well, you know, and it could be, too, that this church is used for special. I know that they, it could be like maybe just like special things like I don't know if you'd have a sing out there because it would certainly be unplugged because there's no electricity out there, even close.
And it may be something they don't even use anymore.
Well, there's a cemetery that's right across, and it's a very, very well-kept cemetery. So my guess is that they have funerals in this church, is my guess. That it might actually be for that purpose.
Well, maybe that might explain the occurrences, too, if it's a, you know.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, the statute of limitations on most misdemeanors, and not all, but most misdemeanors in North Carolina is 2 years. So, you know, hey.
Well, you know, and that's
just breaking a law and getting away with it.
Yeah, well, you know, but I would rather do it. You know, I would really like to have somebody's signature and say, yeah, well, we don't know what that is, and we don't condone it, but you have the right to show it. I'd rather have that.
Yeah.
And you know, and also too, I think I would be able to talk to whoever. You know, let's say that there is a pastor that's in charge of the church, or 2 or 3. Given the fact that I do have some relationship with organized religion and was a Methodist lay speaker and consider myself to be a Christian, that maybe I would have some success in getting their permission to use that, because it really is a phenomenal piece of video, and I'm real glad to have it in my collection. But that boy, whoever came up with that idea in the chat room, that's really a super idea.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
So going back to my question, though, before Scott brought that one, that's all right. You know, like I said, what do you get out of it, and what do you hope to get out of this investigation?
You know, I think as a university professor, you know, and I used to be a practicing, you know, principal and school superintendent and a teacher and public school teacher, and so I've always had a real respect for knowledge and that sort of stuff. But now that as a university professor, I really do have a sincere respect for research as well. And what
liberal. I'm sorry.
Well, hey, conservatives they research stuff too.
Yeah, I know.
Touché.
Some of the best researchers in the land. They just slant everything.
We slant things.
Well done, Al. Well done.
Right.
He's a good friend of mine. I'm telling you.
We got to jab each other every now and then.
Well, yeah, I still, you referred to me as a socialist professor, a liberal professor with
the socialist agenda.
I think, in Greensboro. I'll be the rest of my life trying to get even for that. But Eddie. But anyway, first of all, there's just the thrill of the investigation. There is something that, you know, it's 99% boredom, but when something really happens, it's exhilarating. It's the most exciting thing. When you actually have something happen, it's just absolutely exhilarating. But also, I look and there's a long list of really, really good minds that have looked at the paranormal and have tried to prove the existence of life after death or life after life. And, you know, you can go back to people in my field like William James, who is the father of pragmatism, but yet he sacrificed a lot of his reputation and career because he was so involved in psychical research. And then you have Carl Jung, which is Jung, who, you know, was a disciple of Sigmund Freud, and one of the reasons he broke from Freud is Freud didn't pay enough attention to the spiritual aspects of human existence, and he, as a matter of fact, his doctoral dissertation was on the paranormal. And then you have, you know, sometimes it's a hidden fact that Thomas Alva Edison, his last invention was that he was working on a device that would communicate with the dead through, you know, much like the phonograph, which was actually the very earliest attempts to communicate with electronic voice phenomenon. And then you just look at the long list of people who have actually had experiences with the paranormal and have actually given up a lot of their reputation because that they felt like it was real and it was legitimate. And that's the way that I feel about it. I have a personal belief in it because I have experienced it. And I also see what it's like when, people that don't believe in it will attack you. I've had that happen to me and that kind of stuff. But there's a part of me that would like to be able to in some way help establish the body of knowledge that actually would confirm that there truly is an existence after this. We just don't live and then we die and that's it. I just cannot believe that. I can't believe it in my mind. I can't believe it in my soul. And I cannot believe it in my science either. I really, truly want to try to be able to come up with evidence. And then, and people could say, well, you faked that door, and you faked that sound, and you faked that picture. You can do that.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, why would you do that? And then why would I put my professional reputation on the line, to do that? Because, and if I do get permission to use that, I would open up the photographs that I've taken, just like I have sent it to investigators. The other pictures that I've taken, I've sent them to investigators and people that know photography and that kind of stuff, and nobody can explain it away. Any work that I do, I want it to be scrutinized because the thing that I do when I go into research, let's say that someone invites me into a haunted location, the very first thing I try to do is to come up with a rational explanation. Is it old water pipes banging against each other? Are there bats in the attic? Are there mice in the walls? What is it that could be causing these things? And the first thing that you try to do with the scientific method is once you identify the problem, then you go in, you try to explain it in logical and rational terms. And if you can, only when you have exhausted everything, only then does it become paranormal. But that's what I get out of it. There is the thrill of the hunt and the excitement that you get when you get, and then also you meet the most fascinating people in this field too, like the three of you guys sitting right there.
We've added one. We've added D. Clements.
Well, hey, D. Clemens, then, so it's 4. Yeah, that's exactly right. So
Fantastic 4, that's us.
I didn't even say that.
Oh, my gosh. So the one more person has sacrificed their integrity to hang out with you three.
It's awful. It's awful.
But anyway, it's excitement, and also, too, it adds to a body of science that is, I think that it's sort of like, Captain Kirk used to talk about space, the final frontier. I think that we've got a final frontier right here on Earth, and I think that's it. I think the spiritual realm, which is what I think we're dealing with, is a final frontier here. And I was raised to believe in life after death, and so I just feel that it's a real privilege that I get a chance to ever go in and look at a haunted location.
Well, awesome. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, Dr. Al Proffit, ladies and gentlemen.
Just Al, but I appreciate it. You all been so formal, and I appreciate that.
Thanks so much for coming on the show tonight, Al. We really appreciate having you.
It has been great fun, and I want to wish you all the very best with your new location and your new studio and your investigations, and I'm really hoping that I get to see the three of you and then meet Dee, and maybe there's still hope for Dee. I don't know.
Well, I want to plug one more thing before you go, and that's you're going to be stepping in for Joshua P. Warren on Speaking of Strange.
Yeah.
When is it, September the 29th?
Yeah, it's the last Saturday in September, and it's at 8 o'clock. And I can't remember if that's the 29th. I think it's the 29th, but it's the last September in September. Last Saturday in September, not the last September, but the last Saturday in September. And I'll have on the guy whose name I've dropped in, repeatedly, John Zaffis, but also I'll have Carmen Reed. And Carmen Reed is absolutely fantastic. She is... her story is the Discovery Channel made, I think it was the most watched documentary on the Discovery Channel maybe ever, and it still may be true, maybe not, but it's called A Haunting in Connecticut, and I understand that in the next year that they're going to make a major motion picture of it, and she just has an amazing story to talk about. And this is actually the one place that scared John Zaffis to the point that he actually left paranormal investigating for a brief while, and there was, I think, a Catholic priest that brought him back in. As a matter of fact, it scared him so badly that he shut himself off from everybody for 4 days.
My gosh.
And then John will come in and talk about that. And they actually sent a priest to him to bring him back. And those of us who were with him there, listened to him tell that story, and when we were at Greensboro, and it's just an amazing story. So I hope to have Carmen on and hope to have John on. And I understand, just maybe, if all the planets line up right, maybe that you guys will join us too, and we'll kind of have some kind of Greensboro reunion there and just talk over old times.
Maybe
That's great. Now, you can hear that at 8:80 a.m. Is that right, or is it no? Am I thinking of the sister station?
It's WWNC.
Yeah, WWNC. I don't remember.
And I've forgotten the call. And I should know that.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. But you
also can listen to it live streamed over the net like you can with your show, and it's on speakingofstrange.com.
Yeah, WWNC.com. You can click on Listen Live that night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm sorry, it's 570 a.m. News Talk Radio.
570 a.m. Talk Radio, WWNC. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing. How can people get in touch with you if they have stories to tell or interesting locations for you to go?
I would love to absolutely hear from them because, I'm actually taking some things that people are writing me and for possible inclusion in the book, and it's Help for the Haunted, and that's just the 4 words. There's no, help for the number 4. It's HELPFORTHEHUNTED. Help for the Haunted at yahoo.com, and I'd appreciate anybody just dropping me an email just to say hi. If you got a story to tell, that would be absolutely wonderful. If you've got a place or if you feel like that you need help with any particular thing, because I'm a former counselor in addition to an educator, and if I can help in any way, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks once again for being on with us tonight, Al. We appreciate having you.
My pleasure. I've had the best time. I really have. I've really looked forward to this for a while now, and it's been as much fun. Few things live up to their expectations. Most of the time, the anticipation is better than the event, but this case, both were equally good.
We appreciate
Thank you so much for those kind words.
Have fun hunting for those haints.
Exactly. Thanks so much. Have a good night, Al.
You all take care.
All right, you do the same.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Dr. Al Proffit.
There he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a very good interview. We had a lot of fun.
He's a super guy,
He really is. He's just as cool in real life.
Oh, absolutely.
As he is on the radio.
He is.
Like myself.
And like myself. Remember, I do play the guitar.
And
that increases my ability to be cool by 1,000-fold right there.
Maybe
the guitar.
Man. Maybe it's only 100-fold.
No, I don't know. It's the guitar, man.
Well, that's kind of gay, man.
No, look, Scott, it's a keyboard, Scott, and it's swung around and played as if it were a guitar.
That's gay.
How cool can that get?
That's definitely homo.
Yeah, I need a flock of seagulls thing. I do that great.
Another gay
actually. my hair is a perfect flock of seagull style, and I can start an '80s new wave band, and I'll call it digging for dollars or something. How about that? I don't even. Yeah, all right.
Well, yeah, he will. It was so funny. We were having the talk with
West Islip, and that'll be where I'll come from. And I'm sorry, Scott.
I was just saying it was so funny when Al was talking about, I investigated all the different possibilities, the banging old water pipes banging together. I look at Chuck and I'm like, put the pipe down, man. Put the water pipe down. Yeah, we know. He just shook his head.
But I can see how that'd be one of the things you'd have to check, because at my old
the water pipes, yeah.
When the
absolutely.
On, all you hear is
the banging of the pipes. Yeah.
But this place apparently doesn't have electricity, so it wouldn't have a furnace, would it?
That's true. That's true.
That is just I just want people to see that footage because it's
so
awesome. Amazing.
It really is.
And
I think he's out in the
Al is
that statute of limitations.
I mean, Al has truly gotten a really fantastic piece of paranormal video.
It's historical.
Yeah, it really is.
But anyway,
so
yeah,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So who's on next week?
So be it.
I don't know. I think Trent booked the guest for next week.
Did I?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty sure. I'll need to look at the calendar. No, he's shaking his head. No. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Well, I don't know. We'll grab somebody.
Just like Wotu style.
That's it.
We'll just sit there and wing it like we always do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But we definitely got some guests lined up. Pretty neat ones for the month of September.
we'll keep you informed about those things.
Next week, John Travolta. No, I'm kidding.
John Travolta, Bill Murray, and Dan Aykroyd.
All together. Right
all
here.
together. Same episode. Oh, and did I mention the Queen of England? Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Right there.
we're just about as lucky with that. Yeah. But
And Elvis.
and Elvis, yes.
Yeah,
We're
man.
channel him through somebody else. Well,
I like that lady that you said could channel JFK.
We still need to get her.
I don't.
I keep talking about her, and we never have gotten
Yeah,
her.
yeah. Why not?
I don't know. I've
No,
been,
okay.
I've got that email buried somewhere. Josh sent me a hookup on that saying, man, here you go. 'Cause I gave him a couple guests. I
He
gave
said
him
just like that.
I
Here
gave
you
him
go.
I gave him Dr. Moody and Cyril Wecht. And,
Oh, those are fantastic guests.
Yeah, and he threw me back a couple that he thought I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
That was one of them. And
They're pretty fun.
Oh yeah, but
Next week we're gonna be our new location, new studio. Yeah, you can call again and not just
same number.
We appreciate
didn't
everybody.
change it.
We appreciate all of our affiliates out there broadcasting us as usual.
KWSS, East Hill. You didn't see the little thing I did.
Nobody saw the gang salute. That
The
Scott
gang
just-
salute that I just gave
that's-
to East Hill.
Yeah.
But Fox FM, Robin Valley, Karmacast, OmniSound, Radio 1, all y'all folks out there around the country.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate it.
And thanks again for our
Washington,
listeners
called me.
with the questions tonight.
Yeah,
a lot of
thank you.
questions.
A lot of questions.
A lot of activity going on.
Of course, of course, everybody's going to ask questions when the
the
phones don't work. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when everybody's going to ask
That
questions.
might work out well for us too because we can get more questions in. You know what I'm saying? Want to email them? Oh, what's that sound?
It sounds like the end
is
of the
that
show.
sound?
Like a train wreck going out of hands, finally going off the deep end.
Well, as well drink your last martini and
Yep.
enjoy
the last cigar.
Enjoy the last cigar.
So this is the final night here at the studio. It's got a lot of memories, and we'll make new ones. But it's been a good run here. We've had a good time, and we appreciated everyone that's helped make it such a successful venture. I remember Trent and I the first day we sat foot in here, and it was
That was a lot of fun.
It was, and
it was just us talking.
Had no idea what we were doing.
And look where it came.
Yeah, we still don't know where we're doing. But we do it better now.
We got music and
we got all kinds of cool sound effects, like a
Yeah.
bad action movie, man.
Oh, yeah,
it's like
great.
just soup it up with lots of things that look cool.
All we need is Dolph Lundgren and Tia Carrere on there, and fantastic. We'll call it the worst movie ever made. And
Dolph
Scott and I
Lundgren.
actually, well, that's another story
another
for another
day.
time. Yeah,
Dolph Lundgren.
Lyle Zato. I don't even know if he's still alive anymore, but somehow
we had a bunch. We had a bunch, man.
Somehow I feel
What's
like
the guy with the Mohawk Boz? We were gonna put him
Brian
in it?
Bosworth. Yeah,
I mean, we had like a whole slew of B movie actors we were going to throw in this thing to make it the worst movie ever made. But anyway, this is Jay Scott, your only JD DJ on the OmniSound Radio 1 network.
And this is Trent Lackey, future new wave star. We're coming to you from Kernersville, North Carolina, a small town.
Where we talk about big things. Mr. Chuck Browder, give it up.